Are you looking for resources to support the return to in-person instruction and intensive intervention implementation within your district school or classroom? In this short video, we'll share the top 5 tools and resources from the National Center on Intensive Intervention and our partners that can be leveraged during the return to school to ensure that the implementation of intensive intervention and database individualization continues with fidelity despite additional challenges that the COVID-19 pandemic may have introduced. These include resources around behavior, social and emotional learning, and academics. Resource number 5. Number 5, we have the webinar series Supporting Secondary Students with Intensive Needs During the Pandemic. This webinar series includes 3 webinars and was hosted by NCII in partnership with the Center on Positive Behavioral Interventions and Supports. Webinars in the series cover the adaptation of Check and Connect for the virtual environment, the use of early warning system data to support planning for fall 2021, and methods for how educators at secondary schools can plan for and implement screening to identify and support those with intensive intervention needs. For each of the webinars, you can find the recording, slides, and any related materials. Resource number 4. In number 4, we have NCII's Social and Emotional Learning and Intensive Intervention resource. Getting along with others, paying attention, following directions, making responsible decisions, and managing emotions are challenges for many students who require intensive intervention and may be linked to difficulties with executive functioning, communication, and academic learning. These challenges may have been exacerbated by the conditions surrounding COVID-19, and administrators and educators must prepare to support the social and emotional needs of students as they return to school. This brief presents an overview of how social and emotional learning relates to intensive intervention and offers sample strategies to support social and emotional competencies for students with intensive needs across the tiers of a multi-tiered system of supports. Resource number 3. To jumpstart learning for students as they return to school, in number 3 we have the NCII series of reading and mathematics sample lessons and behavioral strategies. The reading and math lessons provide brief instructional routines that incorporate explicit instructional principles and provide practice opportunities to supplement intervention programs. In addition, the series of behavioral strategies can be incorporated into academic interventions to provide behavioral support for students when needed. Each strategy incorporates key terminology, an overview of the purpose, and all associated materials. During the COVID-19 pandemic, NCII developed some companion resources to support educators as they work with parents to use these sample lessons for additional practice opportunities at home. You can find example videos and tip sheets on the NCII website. Resource number 2. In number 2, we have Returning to School Considerations for Students with the Most Intensive Behavioral Needs, a guide to supporting students with disabilities, their families, and educators. In collaboration with the Center on PBIS and the Integrated Multi-Tiered Systems of Support Research Network, NCII released this guide to provide recommendations for leadership teams and educators as they develop and implement supports for students with intensive needs, including students with disabilities, in their in-person or remote classrooms, groups, and other settings. In addition, Dr. Lee Kern and Dr. Joe Webby provide an overview of the guide in a short Guide to the Guide video. This guide is a companion to a broader Returning to School During and After Crisis guide developed by the Center on PBIS and partners. And our number 1 and most popular resource, last but certainly not least, we have the NCII Tools Charts. NCII has developed 6 tools charts intended to assist educators and families in becoming informed consumers who can select academic and behavioral assessment tools and interventions that meet standards for technical rigor and address specific needs. As schools and districts look to maximize learning opportunities for students as they return to school, including students with intensive needs, the use of evidence-based interventions and assessments to identify students who may need additional support and monitor growth over time will be important resources. These tools charts will be critical resources for general and special educators, administrators, interventionists, and school psychologists as districts across the country navigate the return to school and address the variety of student concerns and needs that have arisen as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic and school closures. Now that you know what NCII has to offer in support of the return to learn, see for yourself. All of these resources and more can be found on the National Center on Intensive Intervention's website, intensiveintervention.org.